Something I want to get into is the dichotomy between what we see from the Nest doorbell video that Nancy Guthrie had at her front door, and drawing a contrast between the behavior of the person in that video and the actual ransom letter that we received. Now, I can't exactly get into what it says specifically, but it seems to us, at least, and to also the authorities, that the person writing this letter was most likely the person that abducted Nancy Guthrie, but also someone that is very astute, someone that knew what they were doing, and someone that had been planning this abduction for a very, very long time.
Someone behind the curtain who's more intelligent, more scheming, and then the individual who actually carries it out, about whom I think the mastermind.
He walked up to her front door like he owned the street. No hesitation, no looking around. Just a masked figure moving directly toward Nancy Guthrie's home in the Catalina foothills of Tucson, Arizona. Then he reached up and tried to cover the Nest doorbell camera with his bare hand. It didn't work, so he grabbed a shrub and shoved it in front of the lens instead. That single moment tells you everything wrong with this case, because a professional doesn't fumble a camera. A professional doesn't improvise with landscaping. A professional comes prepared. And this man was not prepared. But here's what will disturb you by the end of this video. That man, the one stumbling around on camera, was not the most dangerous person involved in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Nancy was elderly. She lived alone. Her home sat in one of the most isolated stretches of the Catalina foothills, far from neighbors, far from traffic cameras, far from witnesses. 42 minutes after that figure entered her home, her pacemaker disconnected from her phone. 42 minutes. Then silence. By the time law enforcement started piecing this together, ransom notes were already circulating. Multiple people claimed involvement. TMZ received letters, the family received demands, and yet not one of those letters contained proof of life. Stay with us, because we are going to walk you through exactly what a retired FBI behavioral profile reveals about who planned this, and why the man on that camera was never the real threat. If Crime Orbit is new to you, subscribe right now. This case goes much deeper than any mainstream outlet has taken it. The real story starts with what the scene itself was trying to hide. To understand why investigators believe this was never a real. Here is what a real ransom abduction looks like. The note arrives within 24 to 48 hours. The demands are specific. The victim is kept alive because the victim is the only leverage the abductor has. The entire situation resolves within a week because every additional hour increases the risk of capture. The victim is precious cargo. You do not harm precious cargo. Now look at what actually happened in this case. Nancy Guthrie was described as bleeding. She did not have her medication. There was no proof of life attached to any communication her family received. Ransom notes kept appearing from multiple senders with zero verification that Nancy was alive. That is not how professional abductors operate. That is how a cover story unravels. The front door showed signs of a struggle. The back door was found open. Blood appeared near the entrance, and forensic psychologists who reviewed this scene came to a conclusion that should stop you cold. It is entirely possible that someone staged the blood at the front of the house, the door being open in the back, to give the impression of an abduction. But she was actually killed somewhere else. Read that again. The scene you were supposed to believe was a crime scene may have been a production. And then there is the ransom note itself. The verified communication that authorities believe came from someone genuinely connected to this case reads as calculated, patient, and highly intelligent. It does not read like the work of the panicked, disoriented figure fumbling with a shrub on doorbell footage. Two completely different minds produced those two pieces of evidence. There are likely multiple psychologies and multiple levels of intelligence involved, at least two people involved in this situation. That is not a theory. That is a behavioral assessment from a forensic psychologist with decades of case experience. And it leads directly to the most important question this case has produced. The evidence tells us something went catastrophically wrong that night, but the FBI behavioral profile tells us something more specific. It tells us exactly what kind of person was capable of engineering it. Retired FBI behavioral analysts do not guess. They build profiles from statistical patterns, crime scene behavior, and victimology. The study of why a specific person was chosen as a target. And when you apply that framework to this case, 5 things emerge that fundamentally change how you see this disappearance. 1. The figure on camera showed zero physiological stress response, no hesitation, no visible fear. The lack of emotionality points to a person who is way too cool under pressure, which can suggest a person with a psychopathic character structure. Normal people, even career criminals, show nerves before doing something horrific. This man did not. 2. His detachment was not competence, it was indifference. He did not care about Nancy Guthrie. To him, this was a job, a task handed to him by someone else entirely. 3. Nancy Guthrie was a terrible ransom target by every professional metric. She was elderly, health compromised, and not independently wealthy. If you were choosing a person for ransom, you would pick someone independently wealthy and likely to survive. Someone chose Nancy specifically. That choice was personal. 4. The mastermind profile looks nothing like the figure on camera. Investigators describe someone intelligent, community-facing, and known to Nancy in some capacity. Someone who, to most people, seemed completely trustworthy. The person behind the curtain would look almost like a pro-social figure to the victim, would almost come across as caring about her. 5. The concept forensic psychologists keep returning to in this case is what they call elimination murder, a homicide disguised as an abduction. The ransom notes exist not to collect money, but to manufacture the appearance of a stranger doing this, to point suspicion away from the person who actually had a reason. The profile is not pointing toward a random predator. It is pointing toward someone local, someone known, someone who needed Nancy Guthrie specifically to disappear. Here is what we want to know from you. If you have followed this case, who in the known circle fits the behavioral profile we just described? Tell us in the comments below, and that profile, when you see it applied to the actual suspects, is where this case gets truly dark. If the profile is accurate, and the FBI behavioral record says it usually is, then the person behind this has been in plain sight the entire time, and they have been watching this investigation unfold from a very comfortable distance. Let's put this together clearly. Investigators now operate from 2 surviving theories. Either this was a real abduction attempt that turned fatal, and someone kept sending ransom notes to collect money from a victim already gone, or this was an elimination murder from the very beginning, staged to look like a stranger did it, while the person who actually planned it stood far away from the scene. The second theory carries more statistical weight. Here is why. The scene was staged poorly. A professional intruder with purely financial motives would have created a more convincing setup. They would have included proof of life. They would have demanded money faster. They would not have spent 42 minutes inside a house if a living, breathing victim was the entire point of being there. One of the prime reasons for eliminating a person, other than financial, is that they know something, or that they've walked in on you doing something, and you have to get rid of them. Think about what that means for Nancy Guthrie specifically. She may have known something. She may have seen something. She may have simply represented an obstacle, financial, personal, or otherwise, that someone needed removed. The mastermind profile describes a person leading a double life, charming publicly, calculating privately, local to Tucson, known in some capacity to Nancy, and not experienced enough as a criminal to stage a scene that convincingly redirects motive. That last detail matters because it means they made mistakes. Subscribe to Crime Orbit right now. The follow-up to this case, including what investigators have not released publicly, drops on this channel first. We need to hear from you. Based on everything laid out in this video, do you believe this was a staged elimination or a real abduction that went wrong? Comment your theory below. Someone in Tucson planned this, and that someone has been living normally while this investigation has unfolded around them. 3 months in. No arrest, no confirmed location, no confirmed cause of death, and a behavioral profile that points somewhere very specific, but has not yet produced a name in public. Before we close, remember who we are actually talking about. Nancy Guthrie was not a case file. She was a real woman. She lived alone in a home she knew. She had people who loved her. She had a life that existed completely outside of whatever someone else decided her fate should be. She deserved better than what happened in those 42 minutes. Here is what remains unanswered. Her location is still unknown. Her cause of death has not been confirmed publicly. The ransom communications have not been traced to a verified sender, and the person behavioral analysts believe planned this has not been arrested. The profile exists, the behavioral evidence exists, the statistical case exists, the arrest does not. What makes this case different from a cold case is that it is not cold. Law enforcement is active. The person responsible is believed to be local. And sometimes, the detail that finally breaks a case open comes from someone who watched a video and recognized something. One question before you go. The profile describes someone local, someone known to Nancy, someone hiding behind a normal public life. If you have seen this case discussed anywhere, drop what you know in the comments. If this video gave you something the mainstream coverage didn't, share it. Not for Crime Orbit, for Nancy Guthrie. Because her name deserves to stay in circulation until someone answers for this. Somewhere in Tucson, the person who planned this is still waking up every morning. The only question is whether they will wake up one morning to a knock at the door, or whether this case quietly disappears, just like she did.